Ty the Tasmanian Tiger was one of the best games aimed at a younger audience when it came out near the beginning of last generation. It was platforming and action mixed with some pretty funny writing and an outback setting that most gamers weren't really used to. That being said, the game did suffer from some technical problems that subtracted from some of the enjoyment, but the game did spawn 2 sequels after that. Today we have the last game released in the series, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger 3, Night of the Quinkan for the GameCube. Night of the Quinkan is a little bit of a departure for the series in terms of plot. Creatures called Quinkan have escaped all over and are terrorizing Ty's friends to a point where the towns are completely unrecognizable. Of course, being Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, he's up for anything, and he sets off to rid the land of these creatures. This involves gathering up old members of Bush Rescue to help him, a nice way to get returning players back into the game, and it would help to know some of the characters before going in. Now, this series has never really been known for its story. It's pretty basic stuff that isn't that original, but the writing for the characters is actually pretty solid. I laughed out loud at some of the jokes the game made, and there are plenty of them in Night of the Quinkan.
Bush Rescue put up a valiant fight, but with the Quinkan's huge army of possessed zombie frills, we just couldn't hold them off.
The biggest change for this game from the previous ones is definitely in gameplay. Ty's upgrades are still intact, but the game also uses stones that you collect from completing objectives and missions. In addition, Ty can use a pretty sweet robot suit to help him when he's fighting some of the bigger enemies, and these sections are actually a lot more fun than the regular combat. The game's platforming sections are also very good, although they aren't that creative, and there are a fair amount of hidden items to get while you're making your way across the map. However, there is also a Mario Kart clone section near the beginning that's not any fun at all. It really feels like it was just shoved in at the last second. Now, remember how I mentioned that the only thing holding the first game back was some technical problems? Well, unfortunately, it's pretty much the same thing with Night of the Quinkan. The camera in this game is actually worse than the first Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, although the game hides this by including a lot of areas where you won't really need to turn it that much, as well as some straight corridors. The game also uses invisible walls to stop you from getting too far ahead without attacking, and to me, this is just a sign of flaws in level design. If you don't want the player to run by enemies, either make the enemies tougher, or put something in the way to block their path. Don't just stop me for no other reason except I'm making the game too easy. Visually, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger is not a huge step up for the series, but using the cartoony, exaggerated effect that the game has means that it still looks fine. The music is some of the catchiest and unique in gaming, and sound design is over the top, but in a good way. Voice acting is a little bit too goofy though, and it kind of takes something away from the funny writing that the game has, almost as if they didn't think it could stand on its own. If you weren't a fan of Ty the Tasmanian Tiger games before, Night of the Quinkan is probably not going to change your mind, but fans of the series will definitely be pleased with this one. Let's hope for the franchise to get brought back with the launch of the next-gen systems.
Just a little bit longer.